All right, Sun Devil fans, here we go. I'm going to say right now, the most eagerly anticipated guest that we've ever had, the glorious, triumphant return of our guy, our brother, one of the all-time greats on and off the field for Sun Devil football. You knew him as an all-timer at safety for the Devils back in 2014, 2015. You knew him when he was on the sidelines. You love him through the thick and thin. Welcome back, our guy, our brother, to talk about some big news. Jordan Simone, I love saying those words. My brother, welcome aboard.
It's good to be back. I'm sure Brad has what number guest appearances is for me ready
Oh,
to roll.
oh man. Let's go with 13.
Immediately called out.
Oh, geez. It's already falling apart.
I mean that hurts, but we're gonna move past it. No, it's great to be back on here with you guys. Man, I just mentioned it before we started. It's been 2 years since I was let go of the Sun Devil broadcast team, which was a bummer. Of course, I still bleed maroon and gold, and I'd heard the person that made the call and fired me is the one that was let go as our athletic director yesterday. So crazy news. And I something I've always said is that I always had respect for Ray. He was always so good to me. When I was a player, and even when I was calling games for ASU, I was. I looked at him as a mentor. I would go to his office. I would meet with him. He gave me great advice, and so I think that's my comments regarding the team and how the coaches, or that's probably what threw him off, was that we did have a good relationship, um, and that he was caught off guard. And so I think ultimately that was probably the reason. I just wish that maybe he would have called me first, or called me into his office and look me in the eye and see what my intent was with those comments. My intent was not to destroy the program, um, and be overly negative, which it kind of came off as. It was more of a frustration. And now you see that team that I was so frustrated about, and you got Jaden Daniels potentially about to win the Heisman. You got Johnny Wilson playing receiver at undefeated Florida State. You got Ricky Pearsall starting receiver for an SEC football team in Florida. You got a starting running back, or a running back sharing time at Ohio State, and Chip Trainum. And that was always my argument was, God, they had so much talent. How come we're not seeing it on the field? And now you are for a lot of those kids, because they're being coached hard. And I couldn't be happier, especially for a kid like Jaden, who's so talented. And you need coaches to pull the talent and the discipline out of you, um, with several different things. But all that to say, man, I haven't talked football in a while. It's been a couple years. But it's good to be back with you guys, and looking forward to discussing things with you again. It's been a while.
Coming hot out of the gates. Well, we're going to put the football talk on pause for a second, man. We want to know what's going on with you. Tell us about life, brother. Like you said, it's been far, far too long. How's the
Yeah,
family? How's everything going, brother?
man, family is so good. I have a 14-month-old daughter now who's just crushing. She might play safety at ASU one day. She's just nuts, like her dad. But no, we're all doing good, and we've been watching the Devils a couple games myself. Um, Definitely miss being back on the sideline and being involved with the program. But like everybody always says, like give Simone his job back, give Simone his job back. And to be truthful with you guys, I don't know that I would want it back. I'm loving being a dad. I'm loving having free weekends, and I'm a commercial insurance broker, and I love my job. Is not fun as that sounds for people that don't know insurance. I really truly love it, and I love the crew that I work with. So I don't know that I would step back into that position to lose weekends again away from the family during football season, because it's a big time commitment. Um, but yeah, I mean, life couldn't be better. So blessed, and I haven't really missed talking football either a ton, which is surprising, because I always felt like I had a doctorate in football, and why wouldn't I use it? Um, because it's what I've known my whole life. Um, but for me to step back in, it'd have to be the perfect opportunity and the perfect timing with my family, um, because right now things are just too damn good.
Well, so you obviously mentioned kind of right off the top that, kind of going back to kind of the end of your tenure as the sideline reporter, but obviously the big news coming just yesterday when Ray's resignation came down. There's going to be a change of leadership for Sun Devil Athletics. Those words kind of first hit your ear, what were those initial thoughts like?
Oh man. Obviously excited for the future of the university and the athletic department. I think it was long overdue in most everyone's eyes. Um, I do want to reiterate that, like, I would still love to sit down with Ray and just like have a conversation with him. I honestly think it's been so long too that it doesn't even matter, like my issues with him. He has so many more issues that he had to worry about. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just the step that we've all been wanting in the right direction. Like, I personally know so many boosters that did not want to give to the program until they saw, him be replaced. Um, and I think it's exciting for the future. I think that people are going to re-engage the football program. I think it's great for Kenny, and great for them on the NIL side of things to get boosters, back around the program. Um, I'm excited to get around the program selfishly again, to go to practice and not feel like I have to, worry about looking over my shoulder or anything like that. And not that I, necessarily did. It was more of just a respect thing. I didn't want to step on Ray's toes and make him uncomfortable. And I always knew that, this day would come and I would be, I'd go back to ASU and I'd be an alumni, football player again. And that Ray would move on to do something else. And here we are. Um, and I wish Ray the best of luck. And if I don't know if he's retiring or what he's planning on doing, but he really was such a nice guy to me, and his wife is incredibly nice as well. So um, yeah, just it's an exciting time for ASU, and they weird timing for him to announce it, but maybe get the ASU fans off a road win. I don't know. But just, yeah, excited for the future of the program and to move forward. Put everything in the past. I have no idea who they're going to hire. I actually would love to hear your guys' opinion on that, because
I
I've
mean, are
asked a
you
bunch
open to
of
the job?
buddies. Am I up for the job?
People's
Yeah.
champion.
Yeah, you would have the people support.
Yeah, I I would have no idea what I'm doing. I mean, other than just show up to all the sporting events, and raise money. I mean, I would have no idea.
That's about
You
the
know,
biggest box to check is just
Yeah,
get those checkbooks
just
open.
just be a good person. Talk to all the coaches. If somebody's doing bad, fire them, obviously,
there you go.
and raise money. NIL.
So, in addition to your reactions, everything you just outlined, what conversations have you had? I know it's been a short span, just barely over 24 hours, with maybe former teammates of yours or others that have been around the program. What
Yeah.
reactions have you had those conversations about with?
Man, I've talked to a bunch of my buddies I played with, and I think everybody's just ready for a breath of fresh air. I think everybody's ready to move forward, kind of like I said, and find the next person, somebody that's going to really lean into, to what Kenny's doing and activating the Valley, and getting some money behind them in the NIL so that they can be as competitive as possible, and not just in football, right? In basketball and the softball and soccer, and you name it. We got to have support behind these student athletes and behind the coaches to be able to recruit. In today's landscape of college football, you have to have that NIL deal to be able to compete in the recruiting side of things, especially as we transition to the Big 12. Maybe you're looking less in California for players, and you're looking in Arizona, and now you're battling in Texas. So got to have money, got to have the resources. So whoever you bring in as your AD has got to be somebody that understands that, right? Maybe not somebody that's as old school, the way that they approach things. So I think everybody's just excited to get back on the right track.
So a moment ago, you mentioned what your experience was like with Ray Anderson in a professional capacity that you had at ASU a couple years ago. But of course, he was hired right after your redshirt season. So he was the AD or 2 seasons on the field for ASU. So strictly as a student athlete during your time at ASU, what was that experience like with him?
We didn't really have a ton of interaction with the AD with Ray when I was playing. As a student athlete, you're just so focused on playing that like all this stuff in the background is just noise for the most part. So as a student athlete, I was never like, oh, let me go meet the AD. Let me shake his hand, let me say hello. Um, and him being new, I think is tough because he's meeting 500 people, um, you know, across from the athletic department to the different players. So I think he was just trying to get his wits about him. But there was like a feeling that, like him and Coach Graham didn't really vibe or get along, and I think that's pretty well documented in
Mhm.
public now
Yeah.
with Ray firing him and everything. But um, yeah, there was always some weird tension, I guess there. And then me being one of Coach Graham's guys, I don't know if there was some tension with him behind that, but I never felt like that. I always felt like he was a good guy until he decided to ripcord me on out of the broadcast.
So obviously, when you look back, obviously starting your time when you're a student athlete, and then for the program that you bleed maroon and gold, and then for a time it was your boss, and in terms of just overseeing the broadcasting capacity. When you look at the entirety of his near decade tenure of leading the athletics at your alma mater, how do you kind of evaluate the whole body of work under Ray Anderson?
Gosh, that's such a loaded question. I mean, there are some hires that I like, if I'm being honest. Like, I like the Willie Bloomquist hire for baseball. And I'm not going to pretend to be, like the biggest guy with stats when it comes to baseball and basketball. I love the Bobby Hurley hire as well. Um, and like you look at their records and maybe you're like, we could do better, but I don't know that we could right now. And Bobby continues to recruit well, and then like just getting people that are passionate and care. um and then like women's basketball had a run, and I don't know that he hired Charlie. But like I don't know, like the two revenue generating sports obviously are where everybody looks, and football being one. The Herm deal is what really crushed Ray's like legacy, I think, at ASU. Firing Todd the way that he did, and then hiring his buddy that turned out to not to be just like a catastrophic meltdown. But they recruited well, and now you see a guy like Antonio Pierce as a head coach for the Raiders. So I think like you can kind of see like they almost did it. Like they almost were able to get the plan. I think the plan was for Antonio to take over when Herm was done, and he went his separate way, and he's having success. But it didn't work out, which is the problem. It's like that's where things went south for Ray. And then like you got a bunch of different allegations and different stories that you hear that somebody covering up something and just maybe not being the most ethical. And again, like that's all stuff I've heard. I'm not for sure, but just yeah, like I said in the beginning, I think it was time for a move. I think it was a little overdue with the way the football program was performing under Herm, and just the way that he took care of Herm on the way out kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So um, look at you guys, already got me talking on here again. At least they can't fire me from anything.
There you go. Full autonomy here. All right. So a moment ago, you were saying you wanted our input on the AD candidates,
Yeah.
but we're doing the interview here, so we're going to ask some questions first. So
Yeah.
whether it's a name or names, which may not be the case, and that's fine. If you don't have names,
Yeah.
what would be some qualities? What are the top few qualities that this next AD absolutely has to have for ASU?
Yeah, I think you got to have somebody that cares about, the university, that wants to see ASU be successful and not use it as a stepping stone to get to somewhere else. I think you have to have somebody that can raise money, that understands football and coaching, and kind of what it takes to have a successful football team, especially in today's landscape with NIL. So somebody that can raise a lot of money, connected to the alumni, you know, I've heard Rocky Harris's name thrown around,
Yep.
who used to be at ASU when I was there, and it's funny, as a player, you don't really get to know these guys as professionals. You get to know them as just like a face in the building, and that's how it kind of was for myself and other players with Rocky. You always see Rocky, hey Rocky, how's it going? On a away game, what's up? What's going on? Small talk, but no, I don't know him as a professional. I do everybody, speak very highly of him. And like, uh, just, like you can tell when somebody's a really nice person, but then to hear people that work with him speak so highly of him, I think says a lot. And then, another guy who I've talked to a ton, and this is going to be a hot topic, but Todd Graham. Todd Graham, I think, has some serious interest in the athletic director position at ASU. And like I'll just throw that out there. I know he's interested in it, and you mean talk about a guy that could raise some serious money for football, and maybe it's a maybe it's a pipe dream, but I don't know. I think he wants that job, and I think he would be able to support the football program pretty well. It's adapted to everything else. It's not just a multifaceted job, right? You got all the women's sports, and then there's a lot that goes into it, obviously. But that's why I've asked other people. I'm like, who are some names you guys are hearing? Because nobody has given me anything. Even people like that are tied in. I don't think they know. So how do you even search for an AD?
That's a heck of a question. That's why we're sitting here, and the people getting the big bucks are the ones pulling the strings, making the decisions. So if we're looking at ASU athletics from a larger scale, even beyond the athletic director, now that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, we're not there yet, but light at the end of the tunnel of this 2 to 3 year nightmare that's been going on. What will it take, not only from Sun Devil Athletics, not only from the administration, but also the ASU community as a whole, not just to get out of this hole, but to propel things back to, where they were when you were playing here, or even beyond?
Man, I think that they're on the right track with Kenny. I mean, I've uh, I've had an opportunity to watch a lot of the games this year, and they're competitive. Like they're competitive in his first year. They've got a ton of missing pieces on the team, but Kenny's finding a way to inspire them in a year where they have no opportunity to go to a bowl game. They're they're competing with some of the best teams in the Pac-12. Now the Utah loss was tough. And I think Utah is built to crush teams that are trying to find their identity. But like you look at them going on the road to play UW, that's like a serious road battle. Up in the Northwest, it's raining, it's colder, and they take it to a UW team that wasn't expecting them to do anything. Um, and you just look across their season. My dad, who also played at ASU, is always calling me, man, they should have won this game. They should have won this game. They should have won this game. And I hate when people say shoulda, because that's football. Like the ball bounces, certain ways, and it's a game of inches. And that's, like in 2014, Utah misses a field goal in overtime, and we make a field goal and we win. Like that's how it is. That's football. Like sometimes you should have won, but you didn't. Um, so I think they're on the right track with Kenny, and I think the fans need to buy in, and I think we need to be patient still. I still think we need to give our money, to give our time, to the program. And there's NIL collectives that anybody can get involved in. But just give Kenny time, and like I love what they've done defensively. They're gonna have they'll have their offensive weapons, and we just need to give them the tools to go recruit, and help them be successful.
Now, do you feel that this change in leadership for Sun Devil Athletics kind of opens a door to get you and others back in the program, or under Ray the last couple of years and kind of the cloud that's been hanging over the program? Did you guys feel that maybe perhaps that door wasn't as wide open as it should have been?
Um, I think for former players, most everybody has felt like they could come back. I just obviously have I had a different feeling about it the last couple years. I just didn't want to make it like me versus Ray. So I kind of stepped back big time. Um, but yeah, I'll for sure get back involved. I'll go to the games. I'll go on the sidelines. and hopefully welcomed back, like nothing ever happened. But that'll remain to be seen. And like I've always said since I got fired, like my love for ASU will never change. It's just I'm gonna take a little breather here. I'm gonna step back and realize that I wasn't perfect in this situation either. Um, Regroup, focus on family, focus on my career. Um, because I was not getting paid very much to do ASU football games. I had to have a career. Um, so I've really leaned into that and love where I'm at. But yeah, for sure get involved. And like DJ's Foster's working, in the student athlete facility building or the football building. I know a ton of those coaches up there. So yeah, I'll for sure be around. And I have been around a little bit. I just I didn't want to overdo it.
And obviously, kind of when you came on the show and shared their honest feelings and assessment of the program, it was kind of near the end of a season that was falling short of expectations, and seeing the program that you bled for go through these two really kind of difficult seasons. The investigation, of course, is still ongoing. What's it been like, just kind of watching from afar of just the program that you love so much, just going through such difficult times?
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks, right? I mean, it sucks for the fans, sucks for us former players. And I think that's kind of what I could see, when all this is going down is like, the players, I mean, they undid everything that Todd Graham did, which was he brought discipline and like toughness and high character. And not that, like the players didn't have that, but like it seemed like the discipline issues started to come back with penalties and turnovers. And like that is hard to recorrect, like after it happens. So, knew whoever was going to take the job had an uphill battle. And so like ASU has surprised me this year though. They've been competitive in games. The players play hard. Um, Kenny's called some great games. Back as the OC, our defenses looked good. If you give them some recruits and get some guys to buy in to what they're doing and they build the culture and the program, there's no question that they'll be back. I believe in what Kenny's doing. And I'm excited for the future. I'm out here trying to activate the valley like everybody else. So I'm fired up for what they got going. Um, it's just going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight. These things. You even look at Colorado. They had like a hot start. But what are they doing now? They haven't won games that they wish they would have, and that's football, man. That's what it is. Things it rarely happen overnight. So you just got to buy into Kenny and continue to believe in him and let him build the program.
Speaking of Kenny, obviously, he's done a pretty good job of navigating a very difficult year of just things kind of, going on with the injury bug kind of sweeping across the program, things off the field as well, the administration. How do you think that Kenny's kind of done, in year one, given all these circumstances and maybe some of the things, when you look back at your time when he was, and during his initial run at
Hmm.
ASU, some of the things that you might have saw there that maybe have kind of translated and blossomed over the years into the head coach?
Yeah, as a GA, I just remember him being hungry and like so much energy. He had so much energy, which you have to have as a GA, and um, I mean that's transpired into like getting an opportunity, and what he's done with those opportunities has been huge. So like we just got to keep giving him time to build the program. And when he got hired, I said, we need to give him 5 years, legitimately 5 years to work on this program, because he's got an uphill battle, with the way things were left. But I really think he's done a great job of hiring coaches that have ties to Arizona, coaches that can recruit. But you still got to be able to coach those players and develop those players, which I believe he can do. So I think he's got good people around him, and I think he cares about ASU. So I'm just excited to continue watching him. I'm gonna try to I'm gonna try to hang with him a little bit in the off season now that things calm down a little bit, and um, just offer any support I can. And he's done a great job with booster relations too. Getting involved, getting guys involved that weren't involved when Herm was there, and um, guys that will be excited about the transition now here with Ray. So I'm excited to see who they get to come be the AD at ASU, and it's obviously a big opportunity for somebody. I got to imagine Rocky will be on that list, just with his ties. And I've even heard that Rocky's like, potential for, taking over at the Olympics or something like that. So, I mean, that might even be a bigger opportunity than ASU.
So obviously you mentioned that when you're watching these games so far this year that the Devils, no matter who's out there, are showing tremendous and impressive amount of fight, always battling each and every game. What other elements about this team really kind of jumped out to you and impressed?
Um, Man, I just think their ability to get players that weren't on the team a year ago and get them into the mindset of playing hard with everything that they've had going on. All these transfers. Like a guy like Scatabo is a great example. Like, battled some injuries, but just comes in and plays hard and does what they ask him to do. Um, and like Jalen Conyers hasn't had, I'm sure, the year that he's wanted to, but I haven't seen him pout. I haven't seen him complain. I've seen interviews of him still smiling and talking and excited. So that's a reflection of the coaching staff, and those guys that are talking to him every day. So I think the team's just been resilient. I think they've been resilient and battled through adversity, which will help them so much in their lives post football. That's something that I'm truly grateful for. Coach Graham was he just taught us so much about how to deal with adversity, um, and things that matter after football, which is important. They're developing young men. Those guys at ASU, those players, they think that they're men now. They have no idea what stepping out into the real world is like, and being a dad and being a husband, and like that's real life. So they're college kids, right? They're enjoying it, but you got to give those guys tools, to take away from football and use for real life. And I think Kenny will do a good job of doing that.
So defensive coordinator Brian Ward took the Jordan Simone life path as he came from Washington State to Arizona State, of course. So what are your thoughts on the job that he has done this season as DC for
Um,
the Devils?
I'm happy that we got him again. Like how many times are we used to like having like, okay, we got a good coach, we got a good coach. Okay, he took a job at Oklahoma State. You're like, ah, dang, like can we just keep a staff here for a little bit? And it sounds like Kenny's going to be able to do that. So I'm just excited that we got him. And again, like you look at the tools that he's had, on defense, he's done a great job. Play keeping games competitive, for the most part. Take away the Utah game, and I'd love to see the stats. How much they've lost games by, possession, maybe two. So um, it's funny, like being out of the media, you're not talking about it, you're not reading about it as much, and so I only have face value, which is really the games, and they just look like they play hard, they play tough, and I like what he's done, and I'm glad that we got him signed up for a couple more years here.
So last question before we get you out of here. Let's look to the future. Give us your thoughts on going to the Big 12. I mean, you've lived, grew up in, played in two different areas very significant to the Pac-12 in the state
Yeah.
of Washington, the Phoenix area. What are your thoughts on the future conference home for Arizona State?
Well, it's such a bummer that the Pac-12 is gone, and obviously this is old news. But having not been in the media, I haven't talked about it, publicly. So I do want to say I am so bummed that the Pac-12 deal happened, and I wish that ESPN would have just bought them and kept the Pac-12 together. It's unfortunate that it didn't happen. I think it'll be studied as some of the worst leadership, in history of college football. The way that all unfolded, it's a bummer. Um, just there's so much history, obviously, but it is exciting that I have family. My brother played at Washington State. And he's really bummed because they don't know what they're gonna do, and so I'm at least happy and grateful that ASU is going to be in the Big 12, so that we're not just sitting there roaming around. Um, It'll be exciting. I think some new places to travel to, some new rivalries to be had. Obviously we've got Utah and Colorado and U of A with us, which is nice. Keep those schools together. But man, I'll miss the no more Jail Mary games. You don't got USC, ASU. You don't got Washington State coming down to the heat. And us usually having our way with them. So definitely going to be tough with no Pac-12 football. And talk about a terrible year to transition. I mean, everybody's good. We've got Heisman candidates all over the Pac-12. I mean, the Big Ten's just chomping at the bit. They're like, oh yeah, we get 2 Heisman candidates. I mean, they get Oregon, UW, UCLA, and USC. They hit the jackpot with that one. And then the TV deals for those universities are just so much bigger. Made a ton of sense. So, like I said, I'm just glad that ASU got into the Big 12, and then, it'll be a pretty good little basketball conference, I think, for ASU to be in as well. But I think ASU will be successful. I mean, I think there's the West Coast brand of football. I think transitions well to play in that conference, and I think a lot of them try to do that. So it'll be interesting. It'll be sad, no more classic rivalries, but there'll be some new fun trips for ASU fans and alumni that are all in Texas and across the Big 12. So excited for that.
Well, even though that's sad, my sadness is now gone since you have finally come back to talk with us here. Jordan Simone, an
Yeah.
all-time great, my brother. Miss you like crazy. Glad to hear everything's going great. We got to get you sitting in this chair before long.
I mean,
Get in these sweet digs in person with us.
It looks like you guys are in Joe Rogan's podcast studio over there. It looks official.
So we got to get you back, my man. Well, all the best. Everybody's fired up that you're back. Truly appreciate you, my brother, as always.
Well, of course, and I appreciate you guys having me. And I'm looking at that studio you guys got, and it's a testament to the years of hard work you've put into this podcast. And fired up for you guys, and I know all the listeners and viewers are as well. You guys have deserved that. So keep going, and I'll see you guys on the other side.